Humans are losing muscles, and you might be one of those humans. Now, I'm not talking about losing muscle due to inactivity. I'm talking about this idea that humans are still evolving. And evolution isn't just about gaining new traits. Sometimes it's about losing traits that we no longer need. Like your appendix or wisdom teeth are classic examples of vestigial structures hanging around from our ancestors. But did you know the same thing is happening with some of our muscles? Certain muscles that were once more important to our ancestors are slowly disappearing in modern humans. So today, we're going to show you some of these muscles and talk about what they used to do for us humans and why we no longer need them. And we'll actually show you a test that you can do on yourself to see if you still have one of these muscles, or if you're a little more evolved. So of course, let's jump into this anatomical awesomeness. Before we get into the specific muscles, let's quickly define what we mean by vestigial muscles or vestigial structures. These are muscles or structures that were fully functional in our ancestors, but have become reduced or even absent in many humans because they're no longer essential for survival or daily life. As humans shifted to more upright walkers, our bodies adapted, and some muscles got left behind. It's kind of like nature's way of decluttering your body. Why waste energy maintaining something you don't use? Now, these muscles are not completely gone in everyone. Their presence varies by individual, ethnicity, and even side of the body, meaning that we typically have paired muscles, like a right biceps brachii and a left biceps brachii. But as these muscles evolve out, you start to see them on one side of the body. Like I'll show you a specific example on me in just a second. But let's start with one of the less well-known examples, and then we'll go to a more well-known example that you can actually test on yourself. So let's start with a muscle, sometimes located on the chest wall, called the rectus sternalis. Rectus means straight, and sternalis refers to the sternum. So this is a straight muscle on the sternum. And I'm pointing to about where it would be on this cadaver's section. And I say where it would be because this body doesn't have it, nor do any of the bodies that we have in our lab. And that's because this muscle is only found in about 5 to 8% of the population. And I've actually only seen it one time in a cadaver lab years ago. And it was the dinkiest little muscle because it doesn't provide much of a function in humans. It may have assisted in pectoral girdle depression, chest stabilization, or elevation of the chest wall during breathing. But as humans became more upright walkers, the sternum fused, creating more stability in the thoracic wall, rendering this muscle even more useless. However, other four-legged animals still to this day have a segmented sternum. So the current homologue to this muscle still provides a function in these animals, such as stabilization and accessory movements of the thoracic wall during locomotion. Now, most people have no idea whether or not they have this muscle, and sometimes it is found incidentally on imaging studies like CTs, MRIs, ultrasound, and even mammography. Now, there are some people that claim they have found this muscle on themselves through palpating their chest wall, and although it isn't impossible to feel it in some people, due to the small size and variation of this muscle, it just isn't as reliable as those imaging studies. So you're definitely welcome to feel away at your chest wall to try to find this muscle, but the next muscle we're going to take a look at, this one is very easy to see if you've got it. But with all this talk about looking for muscles that you may or may not have, let's quickly talk about an awesome tool that can give you insights on your muscle mass, adipose tissue, and other health insights. And that is the Hume Health Body Pod. This is not just some bathroom scale. It's a clinical grade body analyzer that gives you much more information than just your weight. The Body Pod uses bioelectrical impedance analysis to scan and deliver over 45 metrics. Things like skeletal muscle mass, body fat percentage, hydration levels, and metabolic age, to name a few. It even breaks that data down into regions, which helped me to realize that I might have some mild imbalances in muscle mass between my right and left side. So you can definitely use this to address these imbalances. Now, admittedly, I have been skeptical about at-home devices like this in the past that claim they're 98% accurate like the Body Pod. But I recently had body composition tests done at a lab around the same time that I started using the Body Pod, and the results were nearly the same. So I've been using it for months now, and I've been logging consistent weigh-ins, syncing my sleep and workouts, and even setting milestone goals that I can track in the app. And as a bonus, the Body Pod is HSA and FSA eligible. So if you want to know more about your own anatomy, click the link in the description to check out the Body Pod and use the coupon code TheAnatomyLab to start optimizing your health routine today. And now, let's get back to finding those lost muscles. The next muscle that we're going to take a look at that not everybody has is a muscle called the Palmaris Longus, which you can see on this cadaver dissection. But let me just first orient you to exactly what you're looking at. This is the anterior aspect, so the front of the forearm, but it's pointing in the other direction, obviously, and here you've got the thumb. And here is this small muscle belly of the Palmaris Longus originating up in the proximal forearm, with a long, slender tendon inserting into what's left of the palmar aponeurosis. Now, this muscle can weakly help flex the wrist. Wrist flexion looks like that. And it can also tense this palmar fascia. Now, this may have been more important in our arboreal ancestors, gripping branches or swinging through trees, but here's the evolutionary twist. In primates like gorillas and chimps, this muscle is much more developed for climbing. But again, in more bipedal humans, we started using our hands differently and using tools, developing other intrinsic hand muscles, again, making this muscle less useful. Now, this muscle isn't as rare as the Rectus Sternalis that we learned about earlier, as it's only absent in about 20% of individuals. And if you've ever taken an anatomy class or watched one of our older shorts, you might have done this simple test to see if you have this muscle. All you have to do is, let me get these gloves off, is pinch your pinky and thumb together and slightly flex your wrist. And if you can see that tendon popping out in the middle of the wrist, congratulations, you've got a Palmaris Longus. If not, you're part of the growing club of humans who've lost it. But you may also notice that you only have it on one side. Like on me, I only have it on my right side, but I don't have it on my left side. And just to be clear, it isn't this other tendon that you're seeing more laterally. That's actually the flexor carpi radialis muscle, which is not a variable muscle. Now again, if you don't have this muscle, it's not a big deal. You've got other wrist flexors and intrinsic hand muscles to do all the movements that you need. But you could make the argument, if you don't have a Palmaris Longus, you have less spare parts, because surgeons can actually use the tendon from the Palmaris Longus as a graft to repair torn ligaments or torn tendons that have been damaged during certain injuries. Like, it can be used to fix ruptured flexor tendons that you can see going up to the fingers, or even repair the ulnar collateral ligament, which is called the Tommy John surgery, named after the professional baseball pitcher who first underwent the procedure. Our last muscle on the chopping block, so to speak, is called the Psoas Minor. Now, many people have heard of the Psoas Major muscle, which is one of the most powerful hip flexors in the human body. But the Psoas Minor is a smaller, variable version of this. Now, each of these muscles is located deep in the abdominal cavity, right next to the spine. So if you take a look at this cadaver dissection, I'll reflect the sigmoid colon out of the way, and if you look closely, right under this transparent tissue, you can see this thicker mass of muscle tissue, and that's the Psoas Major, which again, everybody has. And you can actually get another view of the Psoas Major on this left sagittal pelvis. And the Psoas Major is this cylindrical mass of muscle, and we've removed the part that attaches up to the spine. But again, this body over here, this one does have a Psoas Minor. If you look even closer, you can see the small tendon through the tissue belonging to the Psoas Minor. Now, as I already mentioned, the Psoas Major, along with another hip flexor called the iliacus, creates the most powerful hip flexor group in the human body. And the little Psoas Minor isn't necessary because of those other powerful hip flexors. But when it is present, it can help a little bit with hip flexion, flexion of the lumbar spine, or pelvic stabilization. Studies show that it is missing in about 40 to 60% of the population, and with how deep this muscle is, there's no way you're really going to be palpating it to see if you have it. You'd only be able to see it with imaging studies. Now, these are not the only muscles that are evolving out of humans. These were just the muscles that we decided to show in this particular video. But there are some other variable muscles around the ear, in the abdomen, as well as some variable muscles in the lower leg that we'll save for another video. But for those of you that are dying to get some information now, I'll put a list of some of those muscles down in the description. But thank you everyone for watching today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.